Before his death, John "Trapper" Tice, the fearless leader of mountain monsters, hinted at something far darker than the world ever saw on television. He claimed the show had stumbled onto a truth so disturbing the footage was buried and the team was told never to speak of it again. But now, years later, evidence has surfaced, suggesting Trapper may have been right all along, that something ancient, something inhuman, was watching them during every hunt. Tonight, we uncover the dark revelation Trapper left behind and why the truth about mountain monsters was never meant to be seen. If you think you know this story, think again. Subscribe now, because what you're about to hear changes everything. Before mountain monsters became one of the most talked about paranormal shows in America, John "Trapper" Tice was already a legend in West Virginia. Born and raised among the fog-drenched hollows of the Appalachian Mountains, Trapper knew those woods better than anyone. He served his country in the U.S. Army, worked as a skilled tracker and outdoorsman, and carried with him an unshakable respect for nature and for the things most people refused to believe lived within it. To locals, Trapper wasn't a TV star. He was the man you called when something strange howled at the edge of your property and wouldn't go away. When Mountain Monsters first aired in 2013, Trapper was reluctant. He wasn't after fame. He wanted proof. He wanted the world to understand that the stories passed down through generations about the Mothman, the Wampus Beast, and the Grafton Monster weren't just campfire tales. They were warnings. Every creature his Ames team hunted was tied to a deeper mystery hidden in the Appalachian wilderness, and Trapper swore that the further they went, the stranger it got. Crew members would later say that off-camera, Trapper kept notebooks filled with sketches, coordinates, and coded notes. He believed the creatures they were finding weren't random. They were connected through something ancient. On one page, he scrawled the words, "The signs are older than the people." Those words would haunt his team long after he was gone. By the time the cameras rolled into their third season, fans saw a leader, but those who worked beside him saw a man burdened by what he'd uncovered. He began telling producers that something didn't feel right, that their expeditions were being guided, not by curiosity, but by something that wanted them out there. He'd later confide in his closest friends that there were things in those woods even he couldn't explain, and that some truths weren't meant for television. To the world, the Appalachian investigators of mysterious sightings, or AIMS, looked like a tight-knit band of hunters chasing legends. But behind the scenes, Trapper's team was operating more like a unit than a TV cast. Buck, Huckleberry, Jeff, Willie, and Wild Bill weren't just country boys with cameras. They were trained in tracking, mapping, and night operations. Each had a job, from navigation to trap construction. And under Trapper's command, they functioned with precision. But what the audience didn't see was the fear creeping in behind their laughter. From the beginning, Trapper kept strict rules on every hunt. Never split up, always keep a clear escape path, and never ever speak the creature's name aloud in the woods. Those rules weren't just for show. They came from years of strange encounters that Trapper refused to discuss publicly. He often said that the things they were hunting weren't animals, they were guardians. In private, the team admitted they felt watched during almost every shoot. Jeff, their tech expert, once told a local radio station that his motion sensors and cameras picked up movement long before the crew arrived, as if something was waiting. As Mountain Monsters grew in popularity, Trapper's concern grew with it. Producers wanted more danger, more confrontation, and more spectacle. But every time the team pushed deeper into the woods, the phenomena got worse. Voices echoing from tree lines, rocks being thrown from impossible angles, and once, an entire camera battery drained the instant Trapper mentioned a creature's name. He began warning the crew, "We're getting too close to something we don't understand." His tone shifted from curiosity to unease. He wasn't chasing monsters anymore. He was chasing answers to questions that terrified him. And when one unexplained encounter left a crew member shaken enough to quit, Trapper confided quietly to the others, "This isn't folklore. It's something else, and it doesn't want to stay hidden anymore." In late 2016, the Mountain Monsters crew began filming what was supposed to be a routine investigation deep in the Tygart Valley. It was a fog-heavy week, and Trapper had become obsessed with a specific area that wasn't even on their filming schedule. He said he'd found something in old county record, a cluster of abandoned mining tunnels that didn't appear on any modern maps. The team wasn't sure what he was looking for, but Trapper was convinced that one of their creature cases, the smoke wolf, originated there. He claimed it wasn't a single beast at all, but a manifestation of something older, something summoned. The Ames crew reluctantly followed, setting up cameras near the collapsed mine entrance. The air inside was thick, stale, and carried a strange metallic odor. Trapper and Buck went in first with night vision, while the others waited outside monitoring audio. Only a few minutes in, the crew radioed that their feed was flickering and audio was cutting out. Then came a series of sharp, rhythmic bangs echoing from inside the mine, like someone was knocking on steel. When Trapper emerged, his face was pale. He said there was something down there. Not human, not animal. He refused to describe what he saw, but ordered everyone to shut down the chute immediately. Later that night, around the campfire, he made the team swear not to tell the producers exactly what had happened. Jeff, their tech guy, tried to review the footage from the GoPro mounted on Trapper's vest, but the file was completely corrupted. Static, white noise, and a strange low hum that caused the laptop to overheat. That episode was quietly shelved. The network never aired it, never even listed it in the archives. But according to Buck, Trapper kept a copy of the damaged footage on an encrypted drive. He told him, "If anything ever happens to me, you'll know where to look." That was the night Trapper stopped calling their hunts adventure. From that point on, he called them investigations into what shouldn't exist. After the Tygart Valley expedition, something about Trapper changed. Visibly, he wasn't the same man fans remembered cracking jokes or shouting orders with that familiar spark. The rest of the Ames crew noticed it too. His voice grew quieter, his planning more cautious, and his nights longer. He'd sit by the fire with a small notebook, writing furiously under the light of a headlamp, muttering to himself about patterns in the dark. Buck once asked what he was doing, and Trapper said, "It's all connected, Buck. The creatures, the tunnels, even the lights in the sky. Someone or something built this map a long time ago, and we've been walking straight into it." Weeks after that cursed shoot, the network requested all raw footage to prepare for editing, but one of the hard drives was missing. It contained the main body cams, thermal imaging, and the GoPro Trapper wore inside the mine. The network assumed it had been misplaced or damaged, but Jeff later confessed that Trapper himself had locked it away in his cabin, refusing to let anyone see it. "There are things people aren't ready to see," he reportedly said. "And if this gets out, it won't just ruin the show, it'll ruin lives." The Ames team decided to move on, filming other episodes in safer, more familiar regions. But the events in Tygart Valley followed them. Their radio frequencies would sometimes pick up distorted voices when no one was transmitting. Drones lost control mid-flight, and more than once, Jeff's motion sensors triggered at impossible angles, capturing humanoid heat signatures suspended above the tree line. Then came the night that fans still whisper about, the night the woods went silent. During a later investigation in Braxton County, West Virginia, the team experienced what they described as a total sound blackout. Every frog, cricket, and bird in the area stopped making noise all at once. The temperature dropped nearly 15 degrees in seconds. Willie remembered the firelight dimming unnaturally, as if something massive had moved between them and the flames. For nearly an hour, they stayed frozen in place, hearing only a low vibration that made their chest cavities buzz. Cameras caught nothing but faint distortion, and then, as quickly as it started, the forest came back to life. When the footage was reviewed days later, producers found something chilling. 3 frames of video showing a massive silhouette standing behind Trapper, nearly 8 feet tall, with a faint light radiating from its outline. The frames were dismissed as glitches, and the episode was edited heavily before broadcast. But the uncut version, kept by Jeff, revealed something the public never saw: a clear voice captured on the audio saying Trapper's name. After that night, he reportedly told the crew, "We're not hunting monsters anymore. We're trespassing." From that moment forward, Trapper seemed to believe someone, or something, was watching them. And the next season of Mountain Monsters would take an even darker turn. one that blurred the line between reality and something the human mind was never meant to comprehend. By 2018, Mountain Monsters had become one of the most popular paranormal shows on cable TV. But behind the cameras, the Ames team wasn't celebrating. Trappers' health was beginning to fail, and while the network wanted more big creature hunts and dramatic chases, the old tracker's focus had shifted entirely. He no longer wanted to entertain, he wanted to warn. During those final months of filming, he confided more and more in Buck and Jeff. He told them that something had changed in the woods since they started airing the show. "The mountains remember," he said quietly one night. "When you shine a light on what's meant to stay dark, something always shines back." The crew didn't know how to take that. They'd spent years chasing folklore, but Trapper's tone carried the weight of someone who had seen too much. After one shoot, Buck followed Trapper back to his cabin in Greenbrier County. Inside, the walls were covered in topographical maps of West Virginia, Kentucky, and Ohio, each pinned with strings, photographs, and strange symbols drawn in red marker. Some matched carvings the team had found on rocks during past hunts. Others looked like ancient sigils. At the center of it all, circled 3 times, was the word doorway. That's when Trapper revealed he'd been keeping a private journal for years, not about the episodes, but about what wasn't allowed to air. He called it the Appalachian Codex. Inside were accounts of strange electromagnetic pulses that preceded sightings, mutilated animal remains that vanished before authorities arrived, and even unmarked helicopters circling their filming zones the day after certain investigations. Buck later said that Trapper looked terrified when he spoke about the mine from Tygart Valley, the one that started it all. He claimed that every time he closed his eyes, he could still hear the metallic banging echoing in his head. But what chilled Buck most wasn't the fear in Trapper's eyes. It was the conviction. Trapper truly believed they had uncovered something ancient and powerful that predated human settlement in Appalachia. In one of his final recordings, found after his passing, Trapper's voice cracked as he spoke into an old camcorder. "They'll say it's folklore. They'll say it's edited for TV. But there's something under those hills that doesn't belong to us. Never did. And if this show keeps digging, they'll come looking for who started it." After Trapper's death in 2019, his family found the codex hidden beneath the floorboards of his cabin. Pages were missing. Others had been burned around the edges, as if someone had tried to destroy them but stopped at the last minute. The surviving notes mentioned a pattern in 7 valleys and the name that cannot be spoken. The surviving Ames members refused to speak publicly about what was in the journal, but months later, fans began noticing subtle changes in their interviews. Less talk about monsters, more talk about forces. When asked if they'd ever found the truth Trapper was looking for, Buck's voice trembled as he said, "He found it, but it's not something we should have found at all." Whatever John Trapper Tice uncovered before he died, it wasn't a creature. It was a secret, one that even in death he seemed desperate to keep from ever reaching the light. After Trapper's passing, the Ames team struggled to continue without their leader. The showrunners wanted to honor his memory by dedicating new episodes to his legacy. But behind the scenes, Buck, Huckleberry, and Jeff were wrestling with something far darker than grief. The contents of a small black hard drive they found sealed inside Trapper's old gun safe. Written on the tape in red marker were 3 words: "Do not open yet." For days, Buck avoided it, but curiosity finally won out. One night, alone in his garage, he plugged the drive into his laptop. The screen flickered before displaying corrupted thumbnails, video files with distorted names, timestamps from the night of the Tygart Valley shoot. Buck clicked one. At first, nothing but static. Then, faintly, the image of Trapper appeared, his face illuminated by a single flashlight beam. His voice was hushed and trembling. "If you're seeing this," he said, "then I didn't make it to tell you in person. Don't go back to the mine. Don't dig deeper. You'll wake it up again." The footage cut to shaky night vision, brief glimpses of symbols carved into the tunnel walls, shapes that looked burned rather than etched. The final clip showed what appeared to be a shadow moving against the light source, crawling along the walls and ceiling with unnatural speed. Then, a burst of white noise and silence. Buck unplugged the drive and threw it into a drawer, but the damage was done. Within days, members of the crew reported strange malfunctions with their phones and cameras, like an unseen signal was interfering. Producers from the network demanded the footage, but Buck refused to hand it over. Shortly after, an anonymous email arrived in the production office reading, "The Tygart files are property of the U.S. Department of Forestry Research. Do not release." Jeff believed the email was fake, until two men in unmarked vehicles appeared outside his home days later, claiming to be consultants. They asked about the hard drive and about what John Tice may have recorded without clearance. The men left without incident, but the warning was clear. Whatever Trapper captured that night wasn't meant to be seen. That was when the Ames team realized Mountain Monsters wasn't just a show anymore. It was evidence, and someone powerful wanted that evidence buried forever. In early 2020, several months after Trapper's passing, the Ames crew quietly regrouped to shoot what was supposed to be a tribute episode. It was meant to honor his life, revisiting old locations, sharing stories, and reflecting on the years spent together under his leadership. But what happened that night never aired on television, and to this day, only fragments of the story have leaked through whispers from the crew. They chose a secluded area in the heart of Greenbrier County, not far from Trapper's cabin. According to Jeff, the team wanted to perform a simple campfire memorial near one of the spots Trapper had marked on his map, a location labeled only as the Gateway. They brought minimal equipment, just a few cameras, and planned to spend one night. But the moment they arrived, things felt off. The woods were unnaturally quiet, and the air had that same metallic taste Trapper once described after the Tygart Valley encounter. As the fire crackled and the team shared memories, Jeff's EMF meter began to spike. He assumed it was faulty equipment until every electronic device on site, from cameras to flashlights, suddenly shut off. A complete blackout. They sat in pitch darkness for nearly 30 seconds until Buck's lantern flickered back to life, revealing something that made his stomach drop. The trees surrounding the clearing were marked with the same symbols Trapper had drawn in his journal. Then came the sound, a low, distorted hum that seemed to rise from the ground itself. It wasn't wind, it wasn't an animal. The noise vibrated in their chests, a deep resonance that made their vision blur. And within that hum, Jeff swore he heard a whisper, one that said Trapper's name. The next morning, the crew left in silence. None of the cameras had recorded a thing, even though they had been rolling before the blackout. Every SD card had been wiped clean, the data unrecoverable. That episode, meant to celebrate Trapper's life, was never released. And according to Buck, it wasn't because of technical failure. It's like something didn't want that night remembered, he said later. Like it took the memory right out of the air. That was the last time the Ames team filmed in that part of West Virginia. And for some of them, it was the night they truly began to believe Trapper hadn't been chasing monsters. He'd been warning them. Not long after the blackout incident, whispers began spreading among crew members that the network itself was under pressure to end Mountain Monsters quietly. Several editors who had worked on the series were suddenly reassigned, and key footage from the last season mysteriously vanished from the studio server. One technician later admitted that he was ordered to delete all clips related to the Tygart mine and Trapper's final messages. The official reason? Archival consolidation. But insiders claimed it was far more sinister. Buck received an unmarked package at his home around this time. A burned CD containing a single audio file. When he played it, all he could hear was static, until a faint voice emerged beneath the noise. It was unmistakably Trapper's, whispering, "Don't let them close the door." Within a week, the channel announced an indefinite hiatus for the show. Publicly, they said it was due to production restructuring. Privately, those who knew Trapper's warnings understood exactly what had happened. The monsters weren't the threat anymore. The truth was, in the years since his passing, fans still mourn John Trapper Tice as a legend of Appalachian folklore. But for those who worked beside him, the weight of his final secret still lingers. Buck has refused interviews. Huckleberry rarely speaks publicly. Yet at conventions, when the subject of Trapper's lost investigation comes up, there's always that brief, haunted silence, like they know something the rest of us don't. Rumors persist that Trapper's hidden journal, the Appalachian Codex, contained coordinates, 7 in total, forming a pattern across West Virginia's coal belt. Some claim those points mark ancient burial mounds, others entrances to something deeper. Whatever the truth, one thing is certain. The man who dedicated his life to chasing monsters may have found the biggest one of all. A secret buried under the mountains themselves, guarded by something that never wanted to be found. And maybe, just maybe, it still watches from the trees.